The cold, crystalline air of the ruins' inner sanctum hummed with an otherworldly pulse as Myra Thalon crouched before the enigmatic console. The device's surface shimmered like frozen starlight, its alien glyphs glowing faintly beneath her nimble fingers. The chamber around her was bathed in a muted blue light, reflecting from the intricate crystalline walls that seemed to breathe with an ancient life of their own. Mira's breath misted in the frigid atmosphere as she carefully manipulated the symbols, her engineering instincts guiding her through the alien circuit. "Almost there," she whispered, eyes alight with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Tools clinked softly against her belt as she adjusted a small, metallic probe, aligning it with a recess on the console's edge. Outside the chamber, Dr. Alara Voss and Captain Rion Kessler stood at the threshold, their breaths shallow in the biting cold. Alara's sharp gaze flicked between the shifting crystalline patterns and Myra's focused silhouette. "Be careful," she urged quietly, her voice taut with the weight of the mission stakes. Kessler's broad frame was rigid as he scanned the darkened corridors beyond. "We don't know what this technology is capable of," he warned, fingers twitching near his sidearm. "One wrong move, and we could trigger something catastrophic." Mira's fingers danced over the glyphs, eliciting a low hum that grew steadily into a resonant vibration. The console's light intensified, casting shifting shadows that played across the walls like spectral dancers. Then, with a mechanical groan that echoed through the icy depths, the floor beneath the chamber trembled. A hidden mechanism activated, and slowly, a section of the crystalline floor slid open to reveal a narrow passage descending into darkness. The team exchanged tense glances. Alara stepped forward, her boots crunching softly against the ice as she peered into the newly revealed chamber. Inside, an expansive subterranean hall unfolded, filled with bioluminescent flora that cast eerie glows across the intricate machinery sprawled like the veins of a long-forgotten heart. The air was thick with the scent of ancient mineral and something faintly electric. The walls pulsated gently, alive with the technology of an extinct civilization that defied comprehension. Captain Kessler positioned himself at the entrance, vigilantly monitoring the shadows. "Stay alert," he commanded, voice low but firm. "We don't know what's down here." Alara's eyes scanned the alien devices, her scientific mind racing to interpret their purpose. "This technology, it's far beyond anything we've encountered," she murmured. "It could redefine what we know about Ilum's civilization." Meanwhile, Mira's fingers were already probing the nearest console, interfacing with the alien tech. The devices responded in kind, lights flickering and mechanisms worried to life. The chambers seemed to awaken alongside them, throbbing with power and latent danger. But the activation came with a cost. Crew members began showing signs of psychological strain. Whispers of unease echoed through the team's minds. Jonas Reeve moved swiftly to tend to a team member overwhelmed by the intense sensory onslaught. His steady hands and calm voice worked to anchor the fraying nerves, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. "This isn't just technology," Alara realized aloud. "It's a safeguard, a defense mechanism that's been dormant too long." Myra looked up, eyes wide but resolute. "Whatever it is, we've crossed a threshold. There's no turning back now." Outside, the crystalline walls shimmered ominously, as if responding to the team's intrusion. The Ilum enigma was stirring, its ancient sentience roused from slumber by the awakening. The expedition's fragile balance teetered on the edge of revelation and catastrophe. Alara closed her eyes briefly, steeling herself. "We must understand it before it's too late. For all our sakes." The chamber thrummed louder, a song of ice and light. beckoning them deeper into the mysteries buried beneath Ilum's frozen veil. The entrance to the ice tunnels yawned before them, an abyss of shimmering blue that promised both revelation and peril. Dr. Ilara Voss took a steadying breath beneath her frost-laden hood, her sharp eyes scanning the crystalline archway that spiraled downward like the frozen ribcage of some ancient leviathan. Behind her, Captain Rion Kessler's broad frame blocked the dim light, a sentinel carved from resolve and battle-hardened experience. Mira Thalin's fingers fiddled nervously with the portable scanner, its screen flickering erratically as it sought to pierce the labyrinth's secrets. "We have no choice," Ilara said, voice taut but resolute. "If the transmission originated here, we need to see what lies beneath." Kessler nodded, his scarred cheek taut. "Stay close. The tunnels might be unstable." One by one, the team stepped into the narrow passage, the biting cold intensifying as the crystalline walls closed around them. Each footfall echoed, amplified by the cavernous ice, creating a haunting symphony of clicks and crunches that seemed to awaken the sleeping labyrinth. The air was thick with a metallic chill that seeped into their bones, and the faint glow cast by their headlamps fractured into spectral patterns on the ice. Eli Marks, their navigator, led cautiously, his breath forming misty clouds as he consulted the hand-drawn maps they'd painstakingly compiled from surface observations. Yet the tunnels defied logic, twisting and shifting in subtle ways that unsettled even his seasoned sense of direction. "This doesn't match," Eli muttered, tracing a finger along the frozen wall. "The passages have changed since we last mapped them." Myra's eyes gleamed with a mix of fascination and wariness. "The ice might be alive," she whispered, recalling the strange energy readings from earlier. "Or there's some mechanism shifting the walls." Jonas Reeve, the medical officer, adjusted his glasses, his gaze flicking nervously between the glowing walls and the team's strained faces. "Psychological stress can cause hallucinations," he reminded them, though his voice lacked the conviction to dispel their unease. Suddenly, a sharp pulse of energy crackled through the tunnel, and Mira dove to the side just as a crystalline shard shot across the passage like a frozen dagger. She scrambled to her feet, breath ragged, and pressed her gloved hand against a strange device embedded in the ice. "Trap," she hissed, fingers dancing over the alien controls. The device emitted a low hum, its crystalline facets pulsing in rhythm with her touch. Around them, the ice seemed to throb, alive with a silent menace. Kessler moved swiftly to cover her, weapon drawn, eyes scanning the darkness. "We can't afford mistakes here. Stay sharp." Ilara knelt beside Mira, her gaze intense. "Can you disable it?" Mira's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm trying. It's unlike any tech I've seen, but I think I can override the pulse. Just give me a moment." Minutes stretched like frozen agony as the team waited, the oppressive silence punctuated only by distant creaks and the faint hum of the labyrinth's defenses. Then, with a final click, the device stilled. "Got it," Mira breathed, relief flooding her voice. They pressed onward, deeper into the twisting maze. The walls shimmered with cryptic inscriptions, alien glyphs etched into the ice like frozen hieroglyphs. Ilara's fingers traced the symbols, a shiver running down her spine despite the cold. "These markings, they're warnings," she murmured. "The civilization didn't want anyone to follow." Thomas Weir, the geologist, studied the formations closely. The ice itself seems engineered, layered in a way to confuse and trap intruders. As they advanced, the labyrinth seemed to close in. Pathways forked and folded unpredictably, and the team's confidence waned. Eli's maps became unreliable in the face of shifting corridors, and frustration simmered beneath the surface. "We're going in circles," Jonas said, voice strained. "This place is playing with our minds." Tensions flared. Kessler barked orders to maintain formation, but Myra's impulsive nature clashed with his rigid discipline. Elara stepped between them, her calm authority momentarily restoring order. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the tunnels. Dust and ice fragments rained down as a section of the passage collapsed behind them, sealing their retreat. "Blocked," Lena Ortiz exclaimed, eyes wide with alarm. Elara's heart pounded. "We have to move forward. No turning back now." The team pressed onward, every step a battle against disorientation and fear. The labyrinth tested their endurance and unity, forcing them to rely on each other's strengths. Myra's technical ingenuity unlocked hidden panels and disabled traps. Kessler's tactical acumen guided their movements. Elara's leadership held the group together through doubt and danger. Hours later, they stumbled into a vast chamber where ancient artifacts lay half buried in ice. Crystalline spheres that pulsed with inner light, towering monoliths etched with stories of a long-lost civilization, and a central console humming faintly with dormant power. Elara approached the console, awe and dread mingling in her gaze. "This is what we came for, but at what cost?" The labyrinth behind them was silent now, but its menace lingered, a reminder that Ilum's secrets were not freely given. The team's ordeal had only deepened the mysteries and the dangers that awaited. "We'll have to face whatever comes next," Kessler said grimly. Together, as the glow from the artifacts bathed their faces, a chill ran through them, not just from the frozen air, but from the realization that the true test of survival had only just begun. The frozen labyrinth held its breath, waiting for the next move. The frozen expanse of Ilum stretched endlessly beneath an overcast sky. The crystalline ice forests whispering secrets in the biting wind. Tonight, as the exploration team settled into their tents near the ancient ruins, a strange unease hung thick in the air. Dr. Elara Voss sat alone, poring over her journal by the dim light of a flickering lantern. Outside, the ice groaned softly, a sound she had learned to accept as part of Ilum's living landscape. But tonight, there was something different, subtle layering in the sounds, as if the ice itself was trying to speak. A sudden, ethereal melody drifted through the camp, barely audible, like a distant lullaby woven from the tinkling of crystalline chimes. Elara's breath caught. She glanced out toward the shimmering ice pillars, their translucent surfaces glowing faintly in the moonlight. The whispering voice seemed to call her name, curling around the frozen columns like smoke. Her heart beat faster. Was it real or a trick of exhaustion? Inside the security tent, Captain Rion Kessler's sharp eyes scanned the perimeter. The cold had clawed through his layers, but his focus remained razor-sharp. Then, faint footsteps echoed on the Issa, crackling, rhythmic tapping that seemed to circle the camp's edge. He spun toward the sound, rifle raised, but saw nothing but flickering shadows cast by the pale glow of the ice. The hairs on his neck stood on end. Was someone or something out there? The voice in his mind whispered of past failures, of lives lost in the cold, but he pushed back the tide of doubt. Yet, paranoia gnawed at his resolve. Meanwhile, Mira Thalon crouched over a small alien device she had retrieved from the ruins earlier in the day. The object pulsed irregularly, casting eerie blue light onto her grease-smudged hands and furrowed brow. As she adjusted the settings, she caught movement from the corner of her eye-translucent figures, like ghosts from another era, flickering amid the towering ice pillars. She blinked hard, heart pounding, but the apparitions vanished. Was it a hallucination brought on by the device's strange energy, Or had the ancient civilization left behind echoes of their presence? In the medical tent, Dr. Jonas Reeve meticulously recorded the symptoms reported by the team. Many described hearing whispers, voices singing in languages none recognized, and fleeting visions of people long gone. Jonas noted the psychological toll these phenomena were taking: heightened anxiety, disrupted sleep, and an undercurrent of dread permeated the camp. Lena Ortiz, the communications specialist, sat quietly nearby, her usual warmth subdued. "I keep hearing a lullaby on the radio static," she confided softly, a sad smile touching her lips. Jonas nodded, understanding the fragile balance they all walked. The team gathered for a tense meeting, their faces pale under the flickering tent light. Elara stood at the center, her voice steady but grave. "These voices, these visions, they're affecting us all. We cannot allow fear to fracture our mission. We must document every occurrence and stay grounded in our purpose." Captain Kessler nodded, though his jaw remained tight. "We'll increase watches and maintain strict protocols. No one ventures alone." Myra hesitated, then added, "I'll run diagnostics on the artifacts and device energy levels. Maybe there's a way to shield us or understand what's triggering these episodes." As the meeting broke, Elara lingered, staring out into the glittering ice forest. The ancient civilization's legacy was not just in the ruins, but in the very atmosphere of Ilum itself, an enigma that challenged the limits of human understanding and endurance. That night, the voices grew louder for some, softer for others, weaving a haunting symphony that blurred the lines between past and present, reality and dream. The expedition's unity wavered on the edge of a fragile precipice, the unknown calling them deeper into the heart of Ilum's frozen mystery. Yet, despite the fear, a thread of awe held them fast, reminder that to uncover the secrets of Ilum, they must confront not only the planet's brutal extremes, but the shadows within themselves. The chapter closes as Elara's journal captures the chilling question that haunts them all. Are these voices the warnings of an ancient guardian, or the whispers of their own unraveling minds? The answer lies buried beneath the ice, waiting to be revealed. The cold seeped into every corner of the ice cavern, a relentless presence as sharp and unyielding as the crystalline walls that surrounded them. Within this frozen fortress, shadows lengthened and distorted in the flickering light of their portable lamps, casting eerie shapes that seemed to move with a life of their own. Dr. Elara Voss stood near the center of the cramped space, her breath steady but eyes sharp as she gathered the team. The atmosphere was thick with unease, the silence between them heavier than the howling wind outside. "We've got a serious problem," Elara began, her voice calm but edged with urgency. "Several pieces of critical equipment have been tampered with. This isn't an accident." She let the words hang, watching as expressions shifted from confusion to suspicion. Captain Rian Kessler stepped forward, his broad frame cutting a commanding silhouette against the icy backdrop. His scarred cheek tightened as he scanned the group, his gaze settling on each member in turn. "Sabotage," he said bluntly. "In this environment, any breach in trust could be fatal." His voice carried the weight of authority, but beneath it lay a brittle edge, hardened by past wounds. Mira Thalon shifted uncomfortably, her bright eyes darting away as whispers of blame began to ripple through the group. She clutched a small alien device, its surface etched with unfamiliar symbols and softly glowing blue lines. Her fingers trembled slightly as she examined it, a storm of guilt and frustration threatening to overwhelm her. "I didn't do anything," she finally spoke, voice low but resolute. "But this technology, it's unlike anything we've seen. Some of the malfunctions may be linked to it." I was trying to understand it, not sabotage the mission, Dr. Jonas Reeve adjusted his glasses, stepping closer to Alara. We need to stay rational. Fear and suspicion can be just as deadly as the cold. We must find the facts before tearing ourselves apart. Lena Ortiz tried to lighten the mood with a half-hearted joke, but the tension was unyielding. The team fractured into smaller groups, voices hushed but laced with doubt. Tomas Villa, ever the pragmatist, urged caution. Our priority has to be survival. Infighting won't help us navigate these dangers. Yet the seed of mistrust had been planted. Accusations flew, some whispered behind backs, others openly voiced. The sabotage was no longer just a technical issue. It had become a mirror reflecting their deepest fears and insecurities. Captain Kessler's rigid command clashed with Myra's impulsiveness. Alara's attempts to mediate strained by her own struggle to trust. Outside, the storm intensified. The wind's howl a constant reminder of the hostile world pressing in. The crystalline ice groaned and shifted, as if stirred by the turmoil within. Shadows danced along the walls, blurring the line between reality and paranoia. In this crucible of doubt, the team faced a dire choice. Succumb to the fractures threatening to tear them apart, or find a way to rebuild trust before the planet claimed them all. The fragile bonds forged in shared hardship now strained under the weight of suspicion, and the cost of failure loomed larger than ever. Alara closed her eyes briefly, recalling the words of her lost mentor. Leadership is not just about intellect, but about faith in others and in yourself. She opened them again, meeting the gaze of each member with renewed determination. We can't afford to fall apart now, she said firmly. We need to uncover the truth together. The survival of this expedition depends on it. But beneath the surface, the shadows lengthened, and the unknown forces guarding Ilum watched silently, waiting to see who would break first. The chapter closed with the team standing at a crossroads. Their unity fractured, and the true cost of survival yet to be revealed. The question lingered like the cold itself. Who among them hid the darkest secrets, and could they overcome the shadows of doubt before it was too late? The communication module hummed softly, a stark contrast to the howling winds battering the ice crystal walls outside. Lena Ortiz sat hunched over the console, her brow furrowed in concentration, fingers deftly adjusting dials and frequencies. The faint glow of multiple screens cast a bluish light over her face, highlighting the smudges of dirt and frost that marked the relentless conditions on Ilum. Static crackled incessantly as the signals from the planet's surface interfaced with their equipment. For days, Lena and the team had been attempting to piece together fragments of transmissions that defied conventional understanding. The signals had been faint and incoherent until now. A sudden, piercing clarity sliced through the static, freezing everyone nearby in place. A voice, distorted but unmistakably articulate, emerged from the speakers. It was unlike anything they had heard before, a rhythmic cadence that hinted at language, urgency, and distress. "Did you hear that?" Lena whispered, barely daring to breathe. Her heart pounded as she replayed the segment, each loop peeling back layers of the mysterious message. Dr. Alara Voss approached quietly, her sharp eyes narrowing at the console. "Play it again," she said softly. The air between them was charged, the team's collective breath held tight. The voice repeated, fragmented but consistent. Lena's fingers flew over the keyboard, running the audio through filters, attempting to isolate patterns and extract meaning. The alien inflections danced tantalizingly close to comprehension. "This isn't just a random signal," Alara murmured, her voice trembling slightly from a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It's a message, possibly a distress call." Captain Rion Kessler entered the module, his presence commanding immediate attention. His eyes scanned the readouts, then fixed on Lena and Elara. "Are you sure this isn't interference from the planet's magnetic fields?" he asked, voice low and cautious. "We've ruled out natural interference," Lena replied, glancing up. "The structure of the signal suggests intelligence. But the question is who sent it, and why now?" Mira Thalon appeared at the doorway, tools in hand, her face illuminated by a flicker of hope. "If it's a distress signal, we need to find its source. It could change everything." Jonas Reeves stood nearby, arms crossed, skepticism etched across his features. Or it could be a trap. The planet's defenses are unlike anything we've seen. We can't afford to be reckless. The team gathered tightly around the console, the gravity of the moment settling over them. The transmission was their last concrete link to the unknown forces that had summoned them to Ilum, yet it also threatened to unravel their carefully constructed plans and the fragile trust within the group. Ilara's mind raced, recalling the ancient inscriptions they had painstakingly decoded. Could this signal be the echo of the lost civilization's final plea? Or was it a warning, encoded in light and sound, to turn back before delving too deep? Outside, the wind surged, rattling the thick panels and reminding them of the relentless cold and dangers waiting beyond the base. Inside, the team was caught in a maelstrom of hope, doubt, and fear. We have to decide, do we chase this transmission, or do we focus on surviving what we already know? Captain Kessler's voice broke the silence, heavy with responsibility. Elara exchanged glances with Mira and Jonas. Each weighed the risks, the tantalizing promise of discovery against the very real threat of death. This signal could be the key to everything. Elara said finally, her tone resolute yet wary. "But we proceed carefully. No more risks than necessary." Lena smiled faintly, her fingers already working to stabilize the connection. "I'll keep monitoring. If there's more, I'll find it." As the team dispersed to prepare for what lay ahead, the transmission continued to echo in their minds, an enigmatic call from the depths of Ilum's frozen silence, challenging their courage and resolve. Outside the module, the crystalline forests shimmered under the planet's pale sun, glistening with the promise of secrets long buried. Inside, the echoes of the last transmission beckoned them onward, into the heart of mystery and danger. The night deepened. The transmission crackled on, and the expedition stood at the precipice of revelation or ruin. The communication room was a hive of tense activity. Lena's hands flew across the controls, her breath visible in the cold air. Every so often, she would pause, her eyes scanning the waveforms with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "I'm isolating a pattern here," she said, pointing to a series of repeated pulses embedded within the static. "It's almost like a code." Mira leaned in, a spark of excitement lighting her eyes. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it," Lena replied, her fingers dancing over the keyboard. "If this is what I think it is, it might be a message from the civilization that built the ruins." Dr. Voss's voice was steady but urgent. "Anything that confirms the source will be invaluable. If the signal is authentic, it could redefine our entire understanding of Ilum." But Captain Kessler's gaze was clouded with concern. "We can't ignore the possibility that it's a trap designed to lure us deeper into danger. We need contingency plans." Jonas nodded in agreement. The psychological impact alone could be devastating. We've already seen signs of strain. The team debated late into the freezing hours, weighing the promise of discovery against the tangible risks. They were explorers on a razor's edge, caught between the allure of the unknown and the stark reality of survival. As dawn's pale light filtered through icy panes, Lena caught a faint, almost imperceptible phrase repeated in the transmission. It was a plea, a warning, a call for help that transcended time and space. The expedition's fate hung in the balance, tethered to the fragile thread of the last transmission. And with that, the journey into Ilum's deepest secrets surged forward, fraught with peril, wonder, and the unyielding spirit of those who dare to seek the truth.